Yeah, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We are here live with the HR Morning Show, and I am thrilled to welcome my special co-host for today. You see her every
I,
week on the show, Lynn Bailey. Welcome. Welcome to being my co-pilot for today.
I am so excited. I couldn't imagine a better person to be a co-pilot with Adam.
Honored. Honored.
I'm
The feeling is mutual. The feeling is mutual. Well, hold on one second here because we got to do a proper intro here. Well, welcome everybody. We have a big show today, guys. We have Lynn Bailey's favorite show in the world is
Purple Acorn.
on television.
Okay, the HR morning show. Got it.
Well,
What? No?
No, The Amazing
Oh,
Race.
oh my
Jeez,
gosh.
The
Oh,
Amazing
the
Race.
Amazing Race. Oh my God. Okay, I'm already screwing this up. We
We
are 2 seconds in, and I have
it's
already.
no, just hang with me here. I'll get you through it. It's all good. We have a great show today. We have a great guest lineup. We have 2 contestants from The Amazing Race that premieres tomorrow, Wednesday night on CBS. Job board experts and some very exciting news. So anyone out there who is a longtime follower of the show, get involved in the comments here. And if not, welcome. That's how we do it. Get involved in the social comments. We are part of the Purple Acorn Network. You can always find out more. PurpleAcornNetwork.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. We're a podcast. We're here every Tuesday. Please hit that follower button. We're about to hit that 2,000 follower mark, and it's exciting. So, Lynn,
Yeah,
I don't know if you want me to share this, but did you just book a last minute ticket somewhere?
I did. I
Where?
literally did. I am headed to Hawaii, and literally 24 hours from now, I am going to be on a plane on my way to the islands where I am going to sit by myself on a beach
Mm.
for 5 days. Nobody left, leaving the teenager, leaving everybody. I'm just going, and I'm gonna have some mai tais, and that's the plan. Very excited.
There we go. And I'm excited for you to just check out. Now, is this a working vacation or a signing off vacation? You're not even going to bring your laptop in?
Oh, it's a signing off vacation.
Good. You deserve it. You've
Yeah,
been
it's a signing off vacation. I'm done for a little bit. I need a few moments of not thinking about all of these people, all of you people. I love you all. Not gonna think about you. I'm not gonna read. I'm not gonna look at LinkedIn. Well, I may, but I'm gonna try really hard not to. Um, and yeah, gonna zone out.
I know it's interesting. I was thinking we were talking beforehand. I'm heading out to Hawaii end of the summer for 2 weeks, and I was actually thinking about it. I'm like, I really do. I really want to take like 2 weeks off of like LinkedIn and like the social
Yeah,
media stuff there too. But like, and then I worry about the algorithm and how it's like maybe I'll put a couple of like scheduled posts up there. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
yeah. I think you're overthinking it, Adam. I mean, listen, you've got a fabulous presence, and I get that you've got to put some work in to do that. But at some point, you just gotta let it be. Let it do its thing. Trust
Yeah.
that it will be okay.
Right?
And
Like at some point, just let it be. Who cares? Right? Like your mental health is because the problem is once you post something, then you're gonna keep checking it to see how it's doing and everything.
yeah,
I mean, I
oh
don't
yeah,
care if it tanks, right? Like at the end of the day, what's more important? Spending time with your family and being present. Like maybe
hmm
I'll have a couple of evergreen posts for the podcasts that are
sure.
up and anything, but we're boring people out there. Let's keep the show moving here. Let's get into headlines. Let's see what's happening.
Okay, let's see.
Headline. Job market here. And what's interesting about this one, the headline says unemployment is low, but workers aren't quitting and businesses aren't hiring. Here's the deal. There's not a ton of jobs out there, so it's not like there's not a lot of movement going on where we used to see, the great resignation and the great recalibration, early on in the pandemic. Unemployment is low, I think is a very loaded question there because I think and I'm curious on your take because you're the analytical mind of this duo here. Um, What's in this headline? What do you take from it, Ellen?
I don't know. It just feels like a whole bunch of bullcrap to me. I don't think that that's. It just doesn't feel accurate at all. I
No,
mean, do we? There is nothing out there that I'm seeing in the market that makes me feel like unemployment is low at the
no,
moment. Now, um, and I also think this is what's interesting. Anecdotally, I'm seeing a lot of people who are actively looking to transition. I
hmm
don't know if maybe they're not maybe they aren't quitting, right? People are smarter than that these days. Most people are holding on till they get the next gig, but I see a lot of people out there actively exploring. I mean, I don't know.
I
You see
do.
this probably more on a daily basis as people are coming in and asking for help and support from a recruiting perspective. But
And
it
most of them are
feels,
out of work. Most of the people that reach out to me are out of work, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. Right. Though, and then I think that's the other pieces, right? If they are out of work, they probably have been for a while right now. It's got a very kind of drop to it. I think maybe that if I was going to say any validity or truth to this statement around unemployment being low, it would be that there are a certain number of people who have just tossed up their hands and given up. And so they're not being counted in those numbers so much anymore. We saw that start to happen,
Mm,
and the tail end of 2020, that happened as well, right? People started to kind of say, screw it, and found other ways to make money, took themselves out of the traditional job market.
right to
Um,
OnlyFans. Right to OnlyFans.
Absolutely. Shoot, make some bucks however you have to do it, right?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, it's a loaded number. I mean, generally speaking, how do they account for unemployment numbers in the United States? Like, where does that come? Where does that come from? Is it like the when companies either let people go or downsizing, or someone files for unemployment? Is that how it triggers the unemployment number?
it
Like, it seems like a
um,
loaded number.
yeah, it's the filing for unemployment is the key driver in there, right? There are some other elements to it, but that is the key driver. That unemployment number is very much triggered by how much unemployment people are actually trying to get, right? And that's why I think that number makes me hesitant because, again, at a certain point, you've run out your clock,
Right.
right? And
Like
then
6 months, 9 months, whatever the extension is. I don't.
you're right. And then at a certain point, there's a certain number of individuals who are like that whatever you're going to give me for unemployment is so low to begin with,
It's like
in
three
terms
hundred bucks a week. It's like like you can't even do anything. You can't even buy eggs.
of right, especially these days, right?
Can't even buy
So,
can't even buy a dozen eggs for $300 these days.
no, no. What is it with the egg prices, by the way? Anyway,
You,
sorry.
you know, it's interesting too. I mean, I went to one of the big box stores, BJ's, over the weekend, and I got 18 eggs for $9. I mean, is that bad at $2 an egg? I mean, is that bad?
Gosh,
Is that high?
I don't know. I feel like that's high, but I don't know. Maybe chickens are finally getting paid for their work and an appropriate wage. I don't know.
Right, exactly. Here, I mean, it's an interesting article, and I want to double back to something what's important here is that people aren't leaving their jobs. I I still feel that people are wary, and if you have a good job right now, even if you may not be happy with certain elements of it, because there's not a lot of other jobs out there, because there's not a ton of openings, that people are just sticking through it.
Yeah,
They're happy
exactly.
where they are. They're secure, quote unquote, right? I mean, no job is secure these days, as we all know. But if you got something good, like why push it? We're not in that market. A very candidate focused market. Unfortunately, we're not, and it's tough out there.
Yeah, it absolutely 100% is. And I think that's exactly what's happening. I think that if people aren't quitting, I think they are holding tight, waiting to see what happens. And like I said, I don't think it's
Mm.
keeping them from exploring and looking for other options. I just think they're waiting,
And
right?
that, yeah, and as a recruiter, and in the trenches recruiter, I was very optimistic that once we crossed over the new year, once a new administration came in, the economy would spark back up, that people would feel a little bit more secure. But we're seeing the opposite of that. We're seeing the complete opposite of that. You take a look at the economy, you take a look at the number. I mean, I don't even want to get into the whole tariff situation here, but it's
Bad.
not going in the right direction. That's all I'm going to
No.
say. It is not going in the right direction, and I hope we shake some things up here soon.
Yeah, it's not going in the right direction. And listen, and it's not just in the US. We're seeing this globally, by the way. But I think that yeah, I think there's usually an uptick that happens post-election. We all kind of anticipate that that's going to happen. None of the numbers, forget the job numbers, all the numbers are not looking particularly good. Now, transparently, is that election related, or is that just the state of the economy and kind of where we are from a cycle perspective? Maybe, but nonetheless, I think there is a large. Usually, the reason we see upticks that happen post election is because people feel like one way or the other there's resolution. They know
Right?
they have a sense of what to expect and what's coming next. If there's one thing people don't have right now post this election is what's coming next, and I
No
think
idea.
that
It's
just
scary.
that just it kills the market immediately.
It's on politics. Very good thing for the economy. There's lack of confidence, lack of stability, and it's Mike Wood saying if you have a mediocre job, just ride it out.
That's right.
Just stick with it right now. So let's close this one up on headlines. Any final thoughts on this? Anything that you would say to job seekers out there?
Don't throw yourself in the market unless you have to. I'm gonna go with Mike's comment there. I think he's absolutely right. This is not the time to be taking big chances from my perspective and what I'm
Yeah,
seeing out
absolutely not. So that's headlines, folks. It's time to move on to event roundup. To what's happening soon, what's happening in the next week or two. First and foremost, we have the virtual learning, the AI era, great hiring humans in an automated world. That's happening on March 11th from 1 to 2 p.m. with our buddy Mike Petito. Where's Mike? Oh, a little graphic of him. Oh,
there.
that's
Yeah, a
not it.
little picture
There he
there.
is. Oh, it's blocked by my camera rig over here. Mike is a great guy. Anybody out there who's not following him, this guy's killing it on LinkedIn. He's got great content, great videos all over TikTok. I think he's the only one out there that gives our buddy Joel Alge a run for his money on TikTok.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Yes, I think it's the real recruiter, the realest recruiter. I mean, there's a naming battle going on there. It's great to see these two,
I
adult,
get out.
older men argue about stuff on TikTok. It's fascinating.
100%.
It's really a joy out there. And then we have what else coming up from ATS to Insights. ATS to Insights. Let's see what this one is all about, team. How top teams are harnessing greenhouse data with people analytics. Yeah, and that's happening. My good friends over at Greenhouse for this one. How top teams are harnessing data. We're going to get into that, and that's happening this Thursday from 1 to 2 with our
And they've got
friend.
Madeline in that. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Madeline Morano, Chief Analyst at Aptitude Research, friend of the show, and she moderates a powerhouse panel of HR and TA leaders who have successfully transformed their recruitment analytics, combining Greenhouse with best-in-class people analytics solution. And our other good friend, who I got to meet at HR Tech, and I was blown away. She was one of my favorite guests. Can't wait to talk to her again. Lydia Wu. I mean, Lydia is not just knowledgeable, not just insightful, but she is full of energy and she just brings it every time.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. She's amazing. The few times I've gotten to sit down and have conversations with her have just blown me away. So really, that should be very interesting.
Yeah, it should definitely be a good one. And then we have the I call it my Super Bowl. We have Transform coming up. That is coming up in 2 weeks. I am excited for that. There's so much going on. I have a lot going on. I will do my shameless plug here. I will be recording the podcast live from the Greenhouse booth on Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon. I have an incredible lineup. Maybe we'll do a little sneak peek team next week of some of the folks that I'm interviewing. Wink, wink. We'll add that one in there. And then I am hosting the stage panel on Wednesday at 11 a.m. with Ariana Moon from Greenhouse and Farrell from Okta. So that's going to be exciting. But here we go. There's that graphic. I know so many of those faces up there. I
Right?
had Shane on the show. I know pretty much everyone. I don't know Michelle. I've not met Michelle, but this is gonna be a good one.
Where's Michelle from? See, my eyes are so bad. I can't read
Yeah,
that.
I can't even squeak on that one. But check that one out, folks. That's happening this Thursday at that's happening at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can tune in.
Absolutely.
We will link that one up. It says register now, so you really can't click on our screen. But production team, maybe someone could throw that link in the comments. Anybody wants to register for that one. So that is the event roundup. And I don't know how we're going to transition into this, but it's time for the global report with Lynn. So
I know.
Let's get that graphic moving.
Let's go.
We're talking about a lot of companies in this space that are competitors one way or another, but there's plenty of fish in the sea. We're all friends here, and that's the way we do it on the HR Morning Show. We'll talk about, Greenhouse. We'll talk about Smart Recruiters. We'll talk about all of them there because, listen, different strokes for different folks. Each product kind of skews to a different audience, and that's the way we do it here. So we are all friends, and that's something I love here. So let's get to the global report. And Alen, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so topic du jour today, because I'm hearing rumblings everywhere, everyone's starting to have this conversation, especially after this last week, around the bullying opportunities and challenges that are occurring in the work. Right? What's happening there, and what are we starting to see? So listen, there's a lot in this space. We just had that conversation about the fact that people are sitting in mediocre jobs and holding out, right? Part of the underlying challenge here is how do you negotiate a workplace where either the coworkers and peers that you're working with, or even your leadership that you
Right.
are working with, maybe operates with a style and a mode that feels really aggressive and perhaps maybe doesn't make you feel the best as you're leaving at the end of the day. That's super challenging for people.
It's a tough one out there, and it's interesting with this transition. In the last 5 years of the pandemic, with so many people, what does bullying in a remote workplace look like? Right? Is it over Slack, over chat, over Zoom calls? Is it just an overall kind of toxic workplace? Like what in theory, hypothetically, could bullying
Yeah.
look like remotely?
Oh, I think one of the biggest places many people probably see it is in those Slack messages, right?
Passive
Who has
aggressiveness, right? Snarkiness.
aggressiveness, snarkiness, or like full listen, people Slack very much like text message
Hmm.
or other social media platforms, right? You put people behind a computer screen where they are
Keyboard
not
warriors.
keyboard warriors, they are not looking at people directly in the eye. They say all sorts of interesting things, right? And what's interesting to me is that people do this. I see it all the time. People do this, and they're leaving their own paper trail as they go down the path, right?
Receipts are there. Digital receipts are there.
I've got to imagine that for those HR structured practitioners that are out there, it's a gold mine in data receipts that show what
It's
people are actually doing,
it's a,
right?
it's it's a tough one too when it comes to workplace bullying, because bullying is kind of like the buzzword there, but there's a lot, like, if we unpack what it means, right? It's intentional lack of support. It's intentionally leaving
Right.
people out of meetings that they should be in. Bullying shows its way in many forms in the workplace. Back talk. Talking behind people's back. I mean, that's certainly bullying as well there too.
And
Uh,
that's a
n- yeah, not keeping people informed, not keeping them in the loop. Again, not inviting them to certain meetings, limiting their exposure to executives, talking down to them. There's it's almost like a quiet firing, almost, right? Like that's part of bullying as
oh, well,
well.
that's our new favorite term that we've heard out there lately, right? Quiet firing, where we just ignore people to the point where they just say, "Well, I guess I don't work here anymore," and they wander off, right?
Right? It's like,
I
what am
mean,
I doing here? I'm not doing anything. Are they
I'm not
getting rid of
doing
me?
right. At which point I would say just hold tight. Again, not a great job market. Don't just wander out. And nonetheless, listen, I think those are all the subtle things that we start to see from a bullying perspective. I honestly think there is an epidemic of aggressive bullying that we're starting to see in the market in the workplace as well. And I think
Wh-
it's part of what we're seeing societally is starting to become more norm, more acceptable, particularly from a leadership position. And I think that has a lot of downstream implications to how people react to it. Right. It's too bad Danielle's not here because I think it'd be really
Oh, she would
interesting
talk about it.
to hear about the difference in perception between what we consider bullying from between different generations, right? So I personally manage a team that's very diverse. I have a lot of different generations that sit on my team, and what I say in one space can be easily misinterpreted and miss the perception can be very different based on my tone and my
Right.
language, and all of those
I,
things, right?
it's interesting you say that too, because I think from a generational perspective, and I'm just being, oh my God, I'm going to get myself in trouble for saying this. I think that the younger generations in certain ways are a bit more sensitive, in a good way and a bad way, right? I
Yeah.
think that we have a little bit thicker skin. We have a little bit thicker skin because that's kind of the way we grew up. And I
Mhm.
think now, because bullying is such an important thing with mental health, that the younger folks are more sensitive in a good way, because it
Yeah.
should not be tolerated. Yes, we
It,
could take it because that's how we grew up. Not to say it doesn't affect us, but in the
right. And
same breath, right? I mean,
yeah,
is
not
that a fair statement?
I think it's 100% fair. I think that you listen. Let's look at, and I think maybe that has some downstream implications to why we're seeing more of it happening in the workplace than it's making people feel comfortable. Because who's sitting in leadership positions now, right? Those in many cases, those who have aged into it.
Hmm.
Um, you say it very nicely when you say, "Listen, those of us of a certain age are maybe not used to being treated as nicely as we probably should have been. We learned bad behaviors." And we leverage those as part of our leadership style when we're working inside organizations, and that has a lot of implications because you have an entire generation who's now coming up who just isn't going to tolerate that, right? They're not that's not how they perceive and interact in the world, and there's an expectation that we start showing up differently.
Yeah,
uh,
and when the rubber hits the road, there's going to be a clash, there's going to be a conflict, and it's going to be interesting to see where who comes out on top.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's usually the executives, and that's not cool.
No, it's not at all. I would love to believe that, in karma and all things come around in time, but that's not necessarily true in the real world of work. And so I think one of the challenges is going to be what starts to become norm and acceptable in a workplace.
Well,
How does that evolve over the next few years? And based on that, how do people choose to adapt and adjust? And how do you find your own sense of kind of mental peace and awareness, right? I mean, here's the good news. We started this by talking about the fact that it's really easy to be a passive aggressive or even really direct bully because of the fact that we're all sitting in our own homes and typing stuff on Slack, and right, we can feel like we're disengaged from it. But that's actually a plus as well, because it also means that if you're paying attention to what's going on, you have the ability to remove yourself when possible from what you're seeing. You're not
right.
looking face on, right? Listen, I remember being in the workplace and having managers come in, and part of their style was to figure out who they could pick on that day during the team meeting, to figure out who they could get to lose their cool. That was part of their kind of intimidation framework. That doesn't happen as much when you're working remotely. It may happen on site, but you can walk away from your computer screen if you need to,
That's
right? You can
interesting.
kind of
And it,
disengage.
and I don't want to go too deep into this. I think that there's other factors out there, whether it be political, what's happening in the world right now, where it's making aggressive behavior a bit more mainstream, a bit more. I don't know if acceptable is the word.
Right.
It's certainly not acceptable, but they're seeing political leaders out there with different tones, not as empathetic, more forceful, and maybe there's that halo effect.
There absolutely is. I mean, I think I think we're going to see more and more of that halo effect start to take over, right? Because no matter what we say, when you start to see things over time in the media and the world around you, through leaders, whether you like those leaders or not, you start to see certain
Right.
behaviors become normalized, right? And suddenly they're not bullying behaviors; they're just normalized bad actions, right? Which we
Well,
all just kind of say, "Yeah, it's fine,"
no,
right?
it's
That's just
it's it's never acceptable.
not okay.
Doing the right thing, no matter how hard it is always the right thing here. I want to know what you guys think in the comments here. Have you experienced workplace bullying? How have you, combated against it? Any advice for younger folks out there? And guys, remember, what you say online is there forever. We have the better
Absolutely.
receipts. You learn that usually the hard way. So, Alin, we could talk about this for a long time, but let's keep the show moving here, and let's
Yeah,
give a shout out to our sponsor. And thank you to our friends over at ERIN. Yes, ERIN's new enterprise dashboards are designed to give talent teams real-time insights, automation, and a seamless user experience so you could hire smarter, faster, and more efficiently. And the red shoes are coming to transform. Make sure if you see us, be like, where can I get a pair of those red shoes? I see so many people wearing them, and they are beyond comfortable. I always have my red shoes on. Look like I gotta clean them a little bit, but they're here and they're on. If you want to learn more, please go over to the ERIN app, the ultimate employee referral program. As I try to put my sneaker back on and not knock my whole entire desk over, because that wouldn't be good.
no, that's not usually really great on live TV. Just so you
Ellen,
know.
Ellen, generally speaking,
Yeah,
generally speaking, referrals. What are your thoughts on employee referrals?
I'm pausing because I have lots of thoughts, but I'm going to try and summarize them really
Positive
quickly.
thoughts, yes.
Positive thoughts. I have positive thoughts on employee referrals. Listen, employee referrals are by far one of the best ways to find talent if you leverage it the right way,
Right.
right?
And that's what Erin
So
does.
right, that's the kicker. But good people know good people. People with great skills usually hang out with others with great skills. I mean, we've known that since we were all out on the playground, right?
Right.
The people who are really good at the monkey bars hung out with everybody else
And
over on the monkey bars.
A players want to bring A players on. A players want to work with great players. Players have worked with A players in the past, and that's what you want to do. So you could find out more. Check out erinapp.com and find out what it's all about and learn about the new enterprise dashboards. So thank you to Erin and the team. I hear something. We have a caller coming in. Jackie, what's happening?
Hey, how are you doing?
Nice to meet you. Where on this fine planet am I speaking to you today?
Yes, I am in Waco, Texas. And oh my
Nice.
goodness, we had the worst storm last night. Lauren, my sister, her power got knocked out. I was like, oh my gosh, it was wild, but happy to be.
Wild. Wild weather across the country. I got to tell you this thing. I have this thing where I go to Austin a couple times a year, and without fail, every single time on my return flight, I always have weather-related issues in Texas. What the hell's going on in your state? What's the deal?
I don't know. I'm really glad it's not global warming, though. That
I
is
don't know.
definitely not it.
Not this one. Not this winter. Well, Jackie, pleasure to have you on the show. Contestant on The Amazing Race. And where's your partner? I think she's having. I think Lauren's having some power difficulties. Speaking of power difficulties, but
Yes.
let's kind of pull back the curtain here. So before we get into The Amazing Race, tell us who you are and what you do best professionally.
Sure. So I'm the founder of People Puzzles here. I work in the talent acquisition space and really have been focusing on making systems to help people hire the right people at the right time.
Right, especially in this world with so many folks are neurodiverse. You want to make it more neuro inclusive. And as a recruiter, I'm a recruiter myself, and in the trenches recruiter. It's been really fascinating to see in the last couple of years the evolution in a positive way. First and foremost, candidates self-identifying sooner rather than later as neurodiverse, one way or another. That enables me as a recruiter to have that self-awareness. How do I approach them a little bit differently? How do I, communicate with them to be best? And how do I communicate that to the hiring manager so they could best communicate with them through the hiring process? So, People Puzzles. That's you talk about AI powered. How are you using AI on your platform?
So the biggest piece is really breaking it down to the most simplest levels. One of the things, especially being a neurospicy, is learning that small talk doesn't necessarily work. Beating around the bush doesn't work. And I want to be clear. I always feel that being clear and having that clarity is
Mm.
actually the currency. It actually tells me what's expected, what I can do to formulate my background, what do I need to present and
Hmm.
what's expected of me, whether it be on the job for the actual job description, but then just in working together so I can be a good teammate. And also giving people an opportunity to take that with them. How do you plan for that? There's just so much confusion. And so that really helps people when you have that. Like I have ADHD, it's pretty severe. I have accommodations to help with that. And I realized that I'm not the only one. I couldn't be.
Mm.
It felt like
No.
it sometimes. I kept like, I can't be.
So, Jackie, jumping ahead a little bit, how did your ADHD affect you in a positive way or a negative way on The Amazing Race without giving away too much?
No, I think it affects me in a positive way, probably most because I'm going to do the thing. I'm really excited on whatever those things are. And so I get my energy from tasks and ideation. So as soon as you think you're going to panic and you're not going to be able to do it, you're done. You have to go to the next thing, whatever that is.
How do you turn it into your superpower? Right.
Right.
But is it that what it really is? So let's hit the rewind button here. Amazing race with Lauren. So let's tell everyone Lauren's her name. But tell us a little bit about Lauren, who she is, and how you guys became friends, and how did this all come together?
Well, we became friends when I was born because Lauren's actually my sister.
Oh, well
Uh,
that makes sense, and I wish the production team had that note in there. I appreciate that.
yeah. So me and Lauren, actually one of the things that has always been neat about
She became
our
my friend when she was born.
yeah, I met her. She was my first friend.
You
Um,
can't choose your family.
you can't. But what was interesting, I think, for the race, we're 10 years apart. And so growing up, she moved out when I was 8.
Hmm.
And so every time we saw each other, it's always been a celebration. And so our relationship has always been like that. But most recently, my mother passed away from Parkinson's. Our mother passed away from Parkinson's.
Sorry.
And one of the things that was really interesting growing up, we always said we had two very distinctively different mothers. She was 20 when she had my sister, and she was 30 when she had me. But what was interesting was she always told us, I'm going to do this when I retire. I'm going to do this when I retire. And when she retired 5 years after that, she got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And originally, she was going to go cruising. That was what her plan was. And then after her first or second cruise, she felt like she was on the cruise all of the time. She was falling asleep because of her balance. And so me and my sister made the commitment that we were not going to wait until we retire. We were going to start doing and living our life out loud and living to celebrate our mother by doing as many adventures as we possibly could.
Isn't it? I'm getting emotional here for a second. Lauren on. Lauren, what's happening?
Hi. Hi, y'all. How you doing?
Welcome. Look at that energy. That's the energy we need here. She was Jackie was just talking about her best friend, you, and how you guys met when you were born, right? That was fascinating. But I want to just pause there for a second, and it's like it's a silver lining, right? Like sometimes when we lose somebody that's so close to us, the best way that we could honor them is how they would want us to live out our dream. How are we inspired by them to live out our life to the fullest? And that's just the way life works. So, Lauren, welcome to the show. Let's dig in here. Amazing Race. How did you guys decide to apply? What was that all about? How did it work? Because that's a lot of people apply.
Right. We're still in shock. It's a little bit surreal because we applied one time. We sent our application in January 11th of 2024, and we heard back like 10 days later.
Wow.
And went all the way through to the end to being on the show. So it is amazing. The Amazing Race has been, I don't know if Jackie had mentioned this already, our parents loved that show. And so it became like a bright spot, especially when we were, going through everything with mom. Like that was the show me and my dad connected over a lot. We would watch it on whatever time zone we were in, and then we would talk the next day and talk strategy and who was going to win and all that stuff. So it has been like an anchor of joy for our family. And I wanted to be on this show back when my kids were in middle school. I'm now a grandmother of 11.
No way.
That tells you how long this has been a dream. And so when my sister was in a position to join on this journey as well, oh my gosh, it just all came together.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
It premieres tomorrow night, CBS. I'm assuming, I'm not sure exactly what time here on the East Coast. We're obviously done shooting. How long? And I don't want to give too much away. How long did you guys have to step away to race?
I would say technically, there's a lot of commitment going on, but there is a filming zone. Again, can't share too much.
Right.
But when you get on the race, it almost becomes like in your DNA.
You can't stop. Are you able, like during the race, like how do you communicate and stay close with your friends and family? A little inside baseball here. Like, do you have moments where you could like check in with them without giving stuff away?
No.
Was that hard for you guys?
No, because really
you were so busy.
What does that say about us?
No. Listen, I think once they knew what was going on. Listen, if God forbid there's an emergency, that's one thing. But you're focused. You're head down on this race. You got to win this thing. Every second counts.
Right. Jackie and I are both travelers, anyways. So our families grew up and knowing about us being gone for lengths of time for business, etc. So, that thank goodness we already had that in place. And, we have very, very supportive families, very understanding families. And I mean, this was a once in a lifetime dream.
Yeah.
So everybody just got on board with that from the beginning.
You got to strike with the iron.
It was go time. It was go time for all of us.
All right. So you guys are both experienced travelers there. What are a couple of these like secret hacks that you guys had to give you the competitive advantage when traveling through towns, cities, countries, airports? Like what are some of these, secret hacks that you can share with our audience here? Give us some alpha.
I always say, make sure you're hydrated. You have to stay hydrated. It is so important just to be able to not have headaches. Make sure that, you're regulating. Also, walking with intention. I think that's a really big thing to remember when you're traveling. You're going in a straight line. Look at where you're going instead of looking all around.
Let's talk about that. That's one of my biggest. First of all, I love my family and everything, but I really love traveling alone because I'm a ninja. I said, and you said traveling straight. My biggest pet peeve. I mean, listen, people are on vacation. It's a business, and the people that lollygag through airports, and you need to like just kind of ninja and weave through them and get to where you're going and get out of the airport as quickly as possible. Don't get stuck there. So, without giving the show away, because we want everyone to watch here, I want to talk about two things first. How did this experience affect your relationship? How much stronger are you guys now? I mean, guys grew up together, been around the block, but like, what has this experience done to the both of you?
I think this experience has made us even closer than we ever dreamed possible. It's interesting, just going through the whole audition and casting process. I learned more about my sister
Hmm.
in like a 6-month period than the last 10 years.
That's
Like,
incredible.
it was incredible. Just how she thinks, and that was the other thing. We were very intent as we were training on working on our communication skills. So I was like, wow, tell me more about why that's how you would do it. And what do you think about this? Okay, if we encounter this, what would you do? What's your first instinct? Like, what are you going to do? So that part, I just have I already had, she knows, and that I'm her number one fan,
I love it.
period. So I'm in charge of her whole fan club, so it just went to a whole nother level, my level of respect and admiration. She is fearless.
You have to be fearless on this amazing race. You have to. That's a competitive advantage. You have to be focused and fearless.
Mm-hmm. She was ready to go. We were ready to go in and just do any and all of it. We were going to embrace the experience fully. And it's like, that was that. And to have a partner that was on that page, it really helped me be strong and fearless as well.
Well, it couldn't have been all sunshine and rainbows the entire time. I'm sure there was some conflict on there. You're dealing with stress. You're dealing with exhaustion on there. Did you guys ever revert back to? I know there's a significant, not significant, but there's an age difference here. Did you guys revert back to any like kind of childhood conflict resolution?
Like, we've never had any.
No.
Like, people didn't believe us, and they
Shocked.
always say, "Oh, I know your sisters," and it's like, no, my sister has always been my hero, and I learned it was just
Aw.
smarter to just do whatever she wants to do. I would follow her into the desert without a canteen, and as long as I was just like, okay, we're good. And it actually, again, it made us stronger in putting us together. There wasn't conflict, because the number one thing that we know in some of the relationships that go on the show, if you're coworkers or your best friends or you're married, those are different things that you choose. She's going to be with me for life, forever.
Can't
And
choose
so
your family.
it's important that we were going to make sure and have that connection.
Well,
Do not recommend to try to see how strong your relationship is, though.
well, you guys could hear me and see me, but apparently there's some technical issues going on in the back. And as long as you guys could hear me, I'm still here. And I want to keep the show moving along here. Was it hard to take a break to do this and come back professionally? How'd you put the professional careers on pause?
Yes, it was difficult and needed a lot of support in going through that. I mean, it took a lot of planning. We were training twice a day, every day. And so it meant that we were either working heads down, making sure and strategizing so that we could execute and know that the plan was going to be able to happen when we weren't there. And then we were back in the gym.
All right, let's a little bit of alpha here, and I don't know how much you could share here. Maybe you could give us not the exact country, but which part of the world was the most challenging for you guys, without giving too much away, because I know we're trying to be mindful here. But where Oxen had you? Could you guys hear me? We having issues, tech issues.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Could you hear me now?
Yes, we can
I
hear
was
you
asking,
now.
as much as you can or cannot share, what part of the world did you find your biggest challenge?
So the part that I cannot share is I cannot share.
All right. Well, we're gonna leave it at that. Again, sorry everyone for the technical issues here. I want to thank Jackie and Lauren for joining us here. Where can folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more, Jackie?
Yes, so you can always find me at Jackie Clayton. You know, I'm the one that spells my name a little funny. It's JACKYECLAYTON. And Lauren, my sister, you can find at Vegan Radiant on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Everyone, check out The Amazing Race on CBS, premiering tomorrow night, and connect with Jackie and Lauren on LinkedIn. We're going to have them up in the comments there. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with The Amazing Race.
Thank you.
You think I learned how to unmute at this point? But first of all, I love the Amazing Race, and I can't wait to see Jackie on it. I definitely hope they win, but we'll be watching. But I do want to jump into the HR forecast. So I remember after the pandemic, everyone was in a hiring frenzy, and background screening of candidates really took a backseat. And it made me wonder, is background screening dead? Well, I was wrong. It's not. In my opinion, background screening is more critical than it's ever been. It's just not another HR hoop to jump through like we're used to. It is a critical piece. It's about protecting your company culture and making better hiring decisions. But in today's world, background checks need to be quick and efficient. I remember waiting 2, 3, 4 weeks, and that can't happen anymore. And I think AI and blockchain are definitely helping with that. We also make fewer mistakes and we can have more confidence in the people we bring on board. But at the end of the day, background screening isn't about keeping people out, it's about making sure the right people are coming in. But here's the catch: if it's done poorly, background checks can lead to discrimination, legal risks, and even turn away great candidates, which we don't want to do. But you got to do it right. The key, you got to use tech wisely and probably should follow the legal playbook. So, for background checks to make a better tool for hiring, it's not a barrier, it should help us. So saying that, that's your HR weather update. Clear skies ahead if you screen smart. Now let's get back to the panel. Aline, so tell me, what's the craziest thing that you have found doing a background check on a candidate?
Oh, that's a great question. What is the craziest thing I have found? I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean, there's always the criminal history stuff, right? That
Yeah.
always pops up. When that popped, it's always a little shocking too, right? Usually because you've gotten to that point and you've like feel like you've met somebody, you know who they are, and then all of a sudden the background check pops up and they're like, needed in 5 states for some sort of weird wine
Well,
smuggling ring. That
you
can
also have
happen.
to, I mean, I'm jumping in here, and you also have to be careful too with names, right? A lot of similar names. So you have to make sure
Yeah.
you're
Oh yeah.
verifying the various data points there, and it's background checks are interesting, and people do what they got to do, and hope sometimes they don't get caught, and then it's up to the company to decide what they're
I
going to
know.
tolerate.
It's funny, Serge. I'm actually surprised at this. They so tell me. Go a little bit deeper for me. What's sparking this thought that background checks are relevant again? Because from my perspective, I got to say, I mean, at this point, outside of kind of big companies who are
Yeah.
kind of going through the legal checks, right, looking at criminal history, perhaps, but for the most part, it feels pretty kind of just ubiquitous, kind of happening at a very low level, and people aren't going very deep. And do you feel like people are going deeper on background checks than they were before?
I think they are. If you look at the example of Fama doing social media screening, I think
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think that's a perfect example because you do have to be conscious of what the candidate, what their brand is outside and what they've done, what they're sharing on social media, because it can have a really negative effect on your brand.
Exactly.
Obviously, what we're seeing out there is there's a lot of examples out there now. So
Let- Let's
yeah,
let's
go.
let's dig into that for a little bit here, and I
Yeah.
think that, and I interviewed uh Jason, right?
Ben.
What's it? Ben Mona from Fama at HR Tech, and we dug into it too because different companies based on your industry and what you do, whether it's public facing, and you look at somebody's social media profile, and you're looking at it for a couple different things. They're saying inflammatory things, racist, politically violent things. What chat groups are they in? And then where does it cross the line between being subjective and really truly affecting your
Yeah.
company? Because when you talk about freedom of speech, where's the line there, especially in the professional world? And how do you separate how you feel? Listen, you could feel how you want, right? But once that starts to affect the company's brand, like that's where it starts to cross the line, and that's where the gray area is. It's a fascinating conversation here. What are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely think that when you own a company, you run a company, your culture is something that you want to protect. And sometimes people disagree with what your culture, what your key values are. But in reality, when you're hiring someone, you want someone that's going to be matching that. And if they are on social media going completely against those values, like that's not a fit. Like it's not a
Right.
It's
fit for
not a good
you.
look.
No, it's not a good look. And Aline, to answer your question deeper, I think during the last, like probably during 2021, 2022, we didn't do a lot of background screening. I was leading a talent acquisition team, and we were such in a desperation of hiring people as quick as possible that we just forego it. And the challenge is it bit us in
Mm.
the backside for sure.
Yeah.
We had challenges after the fact. We hired people that were not fits overall. And I'm not saying only on the when we look at background screening, I think the criminal side and all of those are important. And we also have to be careful that we're not digging in too deep, as you said, Adam. Like we all have our history too. Like we all have posted things on social
Of
media,
course.
say in 2010, that we probably disagree with now. But I think it's time, and especially that we're really in an employer market, that you should make sure the people that you're hiring are fitting not only the criminal side, that they have a good, what they're saying on their resume is actually real. Because there was a research recently that there was like 70% of resumes are fabricated in some way or
Sure.
exaggerated. And I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with a little bit of
Right.
like
Within the
hyping
job
up.
description itself, but once you start pushing in a real job that you were actually at, or
Yes.
overextending how long or how short you were there for, that's when it starts to become an issue, right?
I've come across it many times that I go look at their LinkedIn profile and the resume doesn't match. And that's a
I,
concern, right?
but you also have to keep that. And I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I think that some people are not as active on LinkedIn as we are, and they're not always
Yeah.
Fair
updating it.
enough.
So I always take that with a grain of salt. But when I see a really big disparity on like more than 2 or 3 jobs that weren't there, that are there, they're not, like, then you
Yeah.
get into, oh, it's freelancing, and you need to understand the context. And I try to
Yes.
give people the benefit of the doubt that not everybody are LinkedIn nerds like us, addicts, I should say, and dopamine addicts, right? We're not there all the time. And maybe they're just not updating it. Maybe they're not active. Maybe it's not as important it is. And the
But
resume.
Adam,
So what is it?
I
What is
agree.
the truth? Is the resume the truth, or is your LinkedIn the truth?
Well, I agree with that. But when you see a situation that the resume says vice president, then you go look at the LinkedIn and it says manager. Well, that's a
That's
pretty like
Okay.
that
that's
discrepancy that
egregious.
you have.
That's
And
egregious. I
that
agree with you.
happens. That happens all the time where we
Probably does.
exaggerate roles, right?
Probably does. Yeah, it probably does. This is the challenge, though, right? Because uh, whether it's your LinkedIn profile or your resume, to a certain extent, it is a narrative that you are telling,
Yeah.
right, about who you are. You're trying to have people understand who you are, what you're capable of, off of this static document. I'm going to
Right.
go all off on this, right? On the static document that may or may not actually be relevant. It's interesting. You're right. There's disparities. If you've got, I've got to assume you're. If they're, I'm less concerned about the fact that somebody may have inappropriately said something on one document that doesn't match another document, because I think that they're somehow inflating themselves. To me, what that demonstrates is a lack of attention to detail. Right? Like,
Mm.
you can't figure out that somebody may look at one piece over another piece, and you've done a little bit to make sure that you've kind of done some referencing against both of those documents. That kind of shows me how you're going to approach your work. To me, that's important data.
That's a really good point too. Like how seriously you're taking your job search, or you're
Yeah.
dotting your I's and crossing your T's, are you making sure the lines there too. That's a piece of advice that I give to job seekers out there too. One of the first things that you should really do is get your LinkedIn and your resume as closely
Mhm.
aligned as possible, because recruiters are using LinkedIn. The first thing I'm looking at is your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'll sometimes, more cases than not, look to your LinkedIn before I look at your resume. Just because I'm active on there, and then I'll look at the resume too.
Yeah.
And I could get a quick, when they say recruiters 6 seconds. Yeah, 6 seconds, because what I'm doing is I'm scanning the companies first and foremost to see if it aligns with what we're looking for before I dig in. So if that's not lining up there, that's a red flag on you.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing that I'm curious about is, so when you do a criminal background check and it comes back that they've had, say, a DUI when they were 19 and they're now 42, Is that something you look at? Do you care? Is that in the past? Like, how far back do you go to have something that really concerns you?
That's a great question, sir.
That's
That's exactly where my thought starts to go.
it's interesting. In my decade of recruiting, I've not had that experience,
No?
thankfully. And no, which is crazy. Not every company does full background checks. It depends on the company too. And I think that it's a bit subjective. I don't know. So I'm curious to hear in your experiences, have this happened before, and how have the companies handled it?
Well, it's so interesting. I'm thinking about background checks in general, and you're right, it is subjective. But I think depending upon your role, it becomes more subjective. So,
Yeah.
for years, I used to work in the education field, right? And when we're talking about individuals who are going to be working in what I would call kind of matters of trust in
Right.
relation to children, or maybe I'm working in a nursing home in matters of
Right.
trust, adults, right? So those sorts of spaces, you
Critical.
become more concerned about past behaviors, because they become indicative of how they are going to show up as human beings,
Yeah.
right? But if I start thinking about, a corporate job where somebody's sitting behind a computer screen, maybe they're a developer pumping out code, right? Transparently, I could care less if they had a DUI 3 years ago. It has absolutely no relevance to how well they're going to be able to produce code for me. So I think background checks and what we consider relevant for us at the moment has a lot to do with what the job is going to be,
Hmm.
more so than what the crime or the concern would be.
This is a fascinating one. I'm sure we could talk about this for a long time here, but I think we have someone waiting to join.
Ooh,
Sir,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Oh my God, it's my dear friend Jason Putnam. Welcome to the HR Morning Show, Jason. Same mistake. You're on mute.
I said such nice things about you too, Serge. I don't want to repeat them. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. And we have exciting news because last week you were named the CEO of Veti. So, first of all, congrats.
Thank you.
Second, what is Veti? Tell us.
Plays really well to your previous conversation. I would say we fall into that background check conversation you're having, but really we're more of a hiring automation platform versus the traditional background check company. So if you think of us from a goalpost perspective, we want to take it from like active all the way to beyond. So making sure the results are there, but making sure it's not just doing the background, like we're doing all the things that you guys talked about to make sure you're bringing the right people in, protecting your brand, protecting your culture, and everything else.
I'm curious, Jason, you're one of the most well respected executives in our industry. And I'm curious why you chose Veti. Why Veti? Why now?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. I appreciate that, Serge. So for me to make a move to be a CEO, which is something I've been thinking about and had a couple offers over the years, there's always a few things that were a must for me. Number one, had to be a great product, had to be a really good team, and a third aspect was trusted investors. So the main investor at Veti is a company called Three Lines, and that's actually how I got into Veti, and they're fantastic. So as the CEO, you have this responsibility not just to grow the business, but your people, but also you're answering to your investors. And I wanted to make sure they were supportive investors, but also good human beings. And the Veti product is, from what I've seen, the best in class. And the team who's here is fantastic. And we're going to bring in some other folks soon.
So Veti has been growing pretty much since its inception. It's been successful. But what do you plan? How do you see this expand? What's the opportunity here for Veti in the marketplace?
Yeah, and I think this is similar for a lot of companies that I go into, that they're really product first companies or product led companies. So when I look at companies like that, Veti falls in there. They've put a lot of their time, money, and effort into making sure the product is a best in class and really sets itself apart. So now, just like at other companies, it's time for me to come in with my team and the people we have here and make sure that Veti becomes this household name. Right, we're very big in healthcare and in staffing. And in those two worlds, really well-known brand, really well respected. We have some swagger out there, but how do we go even deeper and broader? That's what we're going to do. That's where the growth is going to come from.
So you have been part of scaling multiple companies that they ended up exiting successfully. Is that the plan here?
I don't think it's the plan today. we're set up differently than some of the traditional VC backed companies. Like it's modest growth. It's really good growth, but it's not growth at all costs. So for us, I want to just keep growing the company responsibly, making sure that people are taken care of, making sure our clients are getting the value that they're paying for. But for me, it's always the same. It's hire the right people, let them do their job, and then, make Veti this household name.
I love it. I love it. I think you're going to do great. So you just stepped into the CEO seat, and I'm sure you have a lot of big plans coming up. Oh, wait, I'm hearing that we have some breaking news. Is that true?
Hi,
Breaking
boys.
news. Do you love that graphic? I love it. So we do have breaking news, and we have a dear friend joining us, and I don't know why. So Jason, do you want to break the news here today on the HR Morning Show?
Yeah, Serge, you asked me, like, what am I going to do in the first period of time? Part of that is bringing in the right team. So one of my first people we're bringing in is Michelle Meehan. We've been together at 2 companies, now 3 with Veti. So that's big news of the day. Very exciting.
Woohoo!
Yay.
Michelle, congrats.
Thanks
Very
so
exciting.
much. I'm pumped about it.
Well, I think the whole industry is pumped to see you join Jason again at Veti. And I'm curious, why Veti? Why? So you've been successful. You have your own company, your own agency. Why join Veti now?
Well, a couple things. One is I love a brand challenge, and I don't think we're a household name. And I want to make sure that we are across all industries. But two, I want to keep working with Jason. We've had a really good run together. There's a lot of trust there. There's a lot of synergies in how we like to go to market. And there's a lot of freedom to do really creative things that sort of keep me excited and engaged.
You are right. I did not know about Veti until Jason got this opportunity to join us as CEO. And you have done a fantastic job in the past to take some maybe brands that are not as well known and really make them enviable in this marketplace. What's the plan with Veti? Like, lay it all out. I'm sure you're on day 1 or 2. I'm sure you have the whole plan laid out. So
Yeah, it's like 1.5 days, 18 hours in, something like that. I don't know that I know the whole plan right now. We're going to SIA next week. And the hope is to see how the team in place currently handles shows, what the engagement is, what do those engagements actually look like up close,
yeah.
and get a feel for how people see it in the market, and then kind of weigh in with what's the next step. So I kind of want to sit in a little bit of a learning seat for a while before I just take any hard turns that could derail what has been a super successful company, just not as well known as we'd like it to be.
Mm. Hey, you mentioned that you and Jason have worked together several places, and obviously you have a good relationship. But like, what makes it work? You're kind of like, when we talk about work wife and work husband, I see you guys as that. So why? So what's the synergy? Why do you love working with Jason?
So one thing that I think, and Jason, I would be curious if you agreed, but we are able to communicate at a level I don't think I've been able to communicate with many humans in my life at. And so there's sort of this, we're understanding what each other's saying in the meeting. We're understanding what each other isn't saying in the meeting. We understand what the other person means in a meeting. And so it's really collaborative because there's this huge level of understanding. And then there's trust, which Jason alluded to. I mean, he's let me do some crazy things I don't think other people, especially in this industry, would have been super comfortable with. But he's given me the rope to do it, and thankfully I haven't hung myself yet. And I only went over budget once, which I'll be happy to tell you. But what do you think, Jason?
It was way over budget.
It was
Like
a
lot.
great party, and you were
It
there,
was a great,
Serge.
and you were there, Serge. Yeah, significantly over budget. I agree 100%. We're able to kind of to use a hockey reference, we both know where the puck is going before anybody's even touched it. So we're already there by the time everyone else gets there. So that communication is really important, and just the speed by which we get things done. And when you have that trust and that easy communication, it's just like, yeah, go do it. So we're able to do like really epic things, but do them really, really quickly.
Hmm. Especially in this space. So the HR tech space is extremely noisy right now. It's always been noisy, but I think it feels like it more now. How do you plan on really standing out, having the Vedi message out there? How do you stand out from all that noise? I'll start with you, Michelle.
I think for me, it's not doing what everyone else is doing. I think the noise comes from everybody sort of feeling that the most important thing to do is hit certain parameters, whether that's at a booth or their messaging, like AI's top of mind. So we have to be talking about that, all of those different things. I'm sort of more, how do we bring what the company does and how it alleviates the pain points to the front in really creative ways versus how the industry has always done it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Jason, what's your take there?
Yeah, I agree 100%. This industry is really, since I've been in it, which has been a long time, all about fast followers. And somebody paints their booth blue, everyone paints their booth blue, and we're just not those people. We want to be the ones from a brand and from a performance perspective that people are following, not the other way around.
One of the reasons that I'm most excited about you guys coming together again is you do throw the best parties at every conference. And I'm hoping this is going to be the case. So you mentioned you're at SIA. What else is coming up? Where can people find the Vedi crew? You'll be touring or Unleash? Like, what's coming up in the events for you guys?
Yeah, a bit of dividing and conquering. We do a lot of shows, especially on the staffing and the healthcare side. But Michelle and I are laying out all the things. I assume we're going to do RecFest as a sponsor. I assume we're going to do some of the traditional stuff that we've always done. And then if we're not sponsoring, we may just show up at some of those shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congrats. I am so happy to see you guys together again. I think Vedi is, as we talked about before, background screening is really taking some steps forward. And I think the industry is changing pretty rapidly. So you guys are at the forefront of it. And I'm looking forward to see what you guys do. If anyone wants to get a hold of any of you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's veti.co, VETTY.co.
That's correct.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining me, and congratulations to the new CEO and CMO of Veti.
Thanks, Serge.
Thanks all.
Hello, welcome. Hello, Jason. I am so excited to get a chance to talk to you. You are doing some amazing things, having some great conversations out there about AI. But before we dive deep into it, give everybody who doesn't know. I mean, if they're sitting underneath a rock and they haven't been paying attention, tell us who Jason Gorman is and what drives you. What are you working on? What's exciting in your world?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I feel like I've been in this industry forever. My name is Jason Gorham. I am the founder and CEO of Talent XI, which is short for Talent Extended Intelligence. I have been in talent acquisition as a practitioner and an HR technologist since 1996. So, yeah.
Now, here's a little fact people may not know. I think you even have a patent, don't you?
Yes, I was the first person to patent programmatic job advertising in 2006.
Yeah.
2006. So, yeah. So even before a lot of the companies were even thinking about what programmatic job advertising was, I actually patented
You were
it.
deep in there. You were deep in there. So, okay. So you have seen this industry go through a lot of different kind of trends and things that we're focused on in space. And one of the things that you and I have in common is that we've both been doing a lot of talking and thinking about AI and what's happening in this AI space. So one of the things I'm really interested in diving into deeper with you is this idea of whether or not AI is actually a help or a hurdle. So what's your perspective on that from a recruiting perspective, from a TA perspective? All this talk about AI, all these AI tools and systems, are they helping? Do they have the potential to help, or are they potentially creating challenges and hurdles?
Um, it's a great question. It's a great question. I think I'll start off with I shared with somebody last year that 2024 for AI was a pie in the face. And I'm hoping that 2025 we're wiping the pie off of our face and actually understanding, okay, what are we doing with this and how is it benefiting us? I will start on the hurt side first with obviously lots of AI out there that are pushing applications into Rex, right? So you're getting, I've seen people post on LinkedIn that they posted a rec and, got over 3,000 candidates.
Volume, right? Isn't that what it's all been about for years?
Yeah,
What's the volume count?
yeah, it's amazing. And then you also have AI on the ATS side that is trying to weed those people out, and obviously, float the most quality candidates to the top. So you have kind of AI fading AI, which is extremely unfortunate. Um, but on the plus side, I think there's a ton of pluses. So I use AI every single day in my world. So I use AI to build presentations. I gave a webinar last week and I built the whole presentation using AI. I use chat, I use Perplexity, and then, of course, we use AI in our own products to build, taking an EVP, creating AI ads. We then score those AI ads so we know that they're high performing. And then we push them into true programmatic omni-channel. And AI also helps us manage the spend so that we're not wasting our customers' money.
It's truly that next evolution of programmatic, right? I mean, you're really taking it to that next level and saying, where does AI start to insert itself to provide value? I'm intrigued. What kind of drove the conversation or what drove the thinking to say, this is the place where AI can provide the next level of value in programmatic? What was the challenge you were trying to overcome?
Yeah, so I started this journey almost a year and a half ago. And it's kind of unique because when I started in the business or the HR tech business in 2003, my goal as a practitioner was to serve the right ad to the right person at the right time. That was it. And that's still my goal, serve the right ad to the right person at the right time. And so when I looked at the market and I looked at job distribution and I looked at, this was just at the beginning of all the tech layoffs. I had no idea that this would be the largest change, honestly, in recruitment marketing since 2003 that I've seen, right? So you have AI, there's increased spend. There's companies out there that have increased, that have pivoted recruitment marketing. There's a lot of M&A in the space. And so employers really have to deal with a lot, right? They have to understand their budgets have been cut. They have more applicants now than ever. And so I was like, okay, how do I take what I built and kind of pivot it? And so the way that we've pivoted it, and it took a long time, is we decided to take an employment value proposition. So we do nothing with jobs. So the thing that I patented, we don't even do.
Well, that's good though, right? That kind of says, listen, you've evolved to the next thing. You said, I did that. done. So somebody go deal with that now, and now you're going to go create and do the next thing. I love that you're focusing on EVP because transparently, I originally got into the TA space working on EVP, candidate experience, really trying to understand recruitment marketing as we started to evolve in that space. I was going to say not that long ago, but that was like in the early 2000s. So I'm aging myself through the Lord. That being said, this whole concept of EVP and thinking about it from a technology perspective, how do we actually think about EVP and embrace it and figure out how to amplify it? Is it been an open question for a long time. So I think the opportunity to take AI to actually leverage this technology to support something that's been out there for a while and be able to amplify it is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. Even better than that is we ask you, so we start off with the employer and we say, give us 100 contacts, give them, start with either, silver medalists, pull them from your CRM, your ATS, send them to us via a CSV, right? And then we'll push those into the ad tech platform. So our customers have spent so much money on their EVP. They've spent so much money on recruitment marketing on so many channels. So we're like, okay, you have a gold mine of data. So we're going to take that gold mine. We'll take those people. We'll create AI ads, right? We'll promote those AI ads. We'll target those particular people. Not only will we target them, we will create lookalike audiences. So we'll tell the system, hey, create a lookalike audience just like these people. And then on top of that, we actually do retargeting as well.
Super slick. As you're introducing this to companies and trying to help them understand it, right? Because that's also part of the challenge here is getting people to understand how to leverage this sort of tech and where the value prop is going to be. What are some of the biggest myths that they're coming at you with that you're having to debunk?
Number one, the word programmatic, right?
Yep.
So Fortune 100 companies have been doing programmatic for years. You get hit with programmatic all the time. So we try not to say programmatic because in the recruitment world, when people hear programmatic, it really means job distribution.
Right.
So we say omni-channel, right? So we'll take your ad and we'll put it into an omni-channel. Now that could be banner, it could be video, it could be podcast, digital out of home, connected TV, like you name it. It's amazing what we can do. So that's the first channel, right? Or excuse me, that's the first challenge. The second challenge is getting them to be more open, right? So to move off of the channels that they're using right now. And the third piece, which is actually resonating the most with every single HR texts me, every single customer that we speak to, is we are full media transparency. So you get to see the dashboard. So you get to see where your money is going, what the channel it's going to, what is converting, and then, what is working and what is not. And so when I was in-house, that was always my biggest challenge. When I ran recruiting.
Where's your spend actually going? What's the impact of it, right? Everybody wants to everybody wants to understand what's your ROI and how are you able to articulate that. It's always been a challenge, particularly in recruitment marketing. In marketing as a whole, has always had this challenge, but recruitment marketing, super big. Yeah, absolutely.
We are really excited about that. Our customers are excited about it. There is nothing to hide behind the curtain. And going back to your AI question, I honestly I wouldn't have rebooted this company. I wouldn't call it a comeback. Let's just call it a reboot. I wouldn't have rebooted this company without AI, right? So
it doesn't make any sense anymore, right? I mean, there's no point.
Well, I don't need 300 people. We
Right.
have roughly 10 people on staff, right?
Mhm.
And we let AI do a lot of heavy lifting. However, we also say that it's AI powered by humans. So we do not believe AI, as 100%, you know?
No, and I think that there's a lot of truth to that, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of mythology around this idea that if you move to AI, that suddenly you're not going to need to have human intervention, or there's not a human component to it. We do a lot of talking and about the idea that AI is almost like a super suit, right? I was thinking about I was watching the interview with Jason and saw all of his Marvel stuff in the background. I immediately started thinking about but transparently, this idea that AI comes in, and if you are smart enough to understand how to leverage it, to ask it the right questions, to put it to use in the right ways, it can amplify any human being's ability to provide impact, right?
Correct.
But it doesn't negate the fact that there's a level of kind of creativity and critical thinking that comes, and empathy, right? Human
Yes.
emotion that
Yeah.
is directly human related. That's not going to happen in the AI space. It's fascinating. It's super
Yeah.
cool stuff. What do you think thinking about this from the HR tech perspective, there's a lot of companies out there talking about AI today, playing in the space of AI, trying to think about kind of what's the level of AI that they need to insert into their products, or that even companies are willing to absorb at this point and what they're ready to expect. What is the biggest piece of advice you could give to the people who are listening today, who are thinking about their next step? Where do they need to go in this AI journey? What questions should they be asking, or what should they be focused on?
I think the first thing, honestly, is education. So you really need to educate yourself about AI. Take HR tech off the table, and so look at AI holistically. Do your research about AI, and what's fascinating and not so fascinating is AI changes daily.
Yeah.
Like you got deep sea coming out, you got this model coming out, that model coming out, things like that. So try to educate yourself around AI, right? And
Yes.
then understand, people are burdened by their day-to-day work. So then also look at holistically, like, what could AI do for you, right? So I've been through like lean exercises, Six Sigma exercises, Kaizen exercises, right? Even if you don't have, if you're not an enterprise company that has those teams, you know, get your team in a room and with a whiteboard and say, what do we do?
That's right. Get some whiteboard and some sticky notes out, create your journey map, and figure out where you can start to be thinking differently about how you're solving the problems. Super cool. Well, this has been fascinating, Jason. I really appreciate this conversation. And I'm hoping that not only myself, but others will get connected with you and start following the work that you're doing here. Particularly, folks, if you're in that recruitment marketing space, I think this is a new angle that's starting to occur, and they're getting yourself educated and smart about what's possible will help you be able to iterate and imagine what you could do. So very cool. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you.
All right. Well, we got through the show without Danielle and Joel. Thanks
Oh
to
my
our
God.
friend Alin. We did it. We did it for anyone out there.
I know. I'm like, "Whew, we made it."
we did it. That was fantastic. Exciting. I love my conversation with the two ladies on The Amazing Race. That was fun.
I'm so excited about that. I can't even wait to watch. The fact that I get to watch The Amazing Race and see Jackie and her sister on it is amazing. It's my favorite show. It really, so back to the beginning, it is my favorite show. I wasn't just talking on that. I'm so excited.
Yeah, the realest of the reality shows. Well, Lynn, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to my main man, Serge. As always, with the weather, we want to thank our friends, ERIN, for their continued support. Guys, please, if you're not following along, if you're not following the HR Morning Show on Purple Acorn, please follow. Tell your friends about us. If you want more Purple Acorn, head over to purpleacornnetwork.com. We are find us on Spotify. Be sure to check us back here every Tuesday at I'm out on the East Coast, 7 a.m. on the West Coast. Wake up with us. We want to thank all of our friends. Thank you to our production team. Thank you, Alin. We'll be back next week. And Everyone have a great week, and thank you for tuning into the HR Morning Show. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.